Ross Sewage, a.k.a. Torch from Cold Slither. Welcome to the show.
Holy cow, where is he? I want to see this guy. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
So this is wild because you have had one of the most unique opportunities really in the history of pop culture to participate in this Cold Slither project. And we're going to talk about that. But before we get to that, I want to talk about your musical career because I look at, so this is for anybody listening or watching or whatever. If you need to know something about metal, I have found an invaluable resource to be Encyclopedia Metallum.
Oh, if you want to find some of the worst bands in metal, it's a great resource.
Well, just information.
Is it a band name? It's probably on Encyclopedia Metallum.
It's so as far as information and history, though. It's the way to dig in and also find, because that's what's always interesting to me is I look at your listing here and I see somebody who has been working their ass off for like 30 years now.
Yeah, I don't have much ass left. It's true.
So how did you get, we'll do a little toy talk in a minute, but I want to talk about the music now. How'd you get started playing music? Like since you were a little kid, you just were obsessed? How'd it go?
Essentially, TSR Marvel superheroes role-playing game is how I got started playing music.
Okay.
That sounds weird, but that is kind of how I met my friends in high school. Cole, technically I met him in PE class, and I was getting into metal, and he had long hair and wore metal shirts all the time. So I started talking to him, and he started, like, I was going on like Metallica and stuff like that, and he was like, "Well, no, you should here jumpstart a little forward. Here's Carcass, here's Godflesh, and a bunch of like killer death metal bands." And he's like, "Hey, you should hang out with my friend Matt. We play TSR Marvel role playing TSR superhero, which I had my modules of, and he had his modules of. I'd never had anybody to play with because all my friends didn't have patience for role playing games up to that point. And then I hung out with them, and we sat around listening to Venom and Voivod and playing superhero games. I started hanging out with those guys more often. Then they started showing me like Gwar videos, and I'm getting into all this music, and I wanted to keep hanging out. And eventually I kind of started my own band that we don't need to talk about. And played one high school show and did some death metal vocals. And those guys, Matt and Cole, were currently looking to fill a vocalist slot. Maybe I was kind of working my way to try to get in there. And they like, "Hey, you do that. You already drive us around town, play games together, join the band." And that's pretty much playing music from then on.
Man, it's wild how those connections can happen and one thing leads to another thing. And I remember in the 80s, if you were a kid who was into like superheroes or dragons or whatever the case may be, you'd see those things like the Marvel role-playing game or the Ninja Turtles role-playing game. And you'd be like, I'm into that stuff and I don't know what I'm going to do with these books necessarily.
Yeah.
But I'm in Walden books and here they are and I'm going to get them. And then you do hopefully run into people who also are like, no, I've got that stuff too. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, we did that. We had lots of, we came with had all the map packs, had all the character packs, still have them, most of it. And, would come up with like adventures where they had to fight like an evil George Bush in a robot costume, and like it was all sorts of goofy scenarios.
I mean, I think evil George Bush is probably a little redundant, but I get the concept.
It was HW. It was HW. We're still talking about the 90s. We weren't sure how evil it could get yet.
Well, yeah, right. In the 80s, everything was, happy and good and fun.
Yeah, well, and then the toys of our youth. So, and that's where my childlike brain is still stuck.
So metal is such a specific genre of music culturally. I think there's a lot of crossover between metal and punk in that there's so much more of a cultural identity associated with metal. But then you get into, you said, you went, because my journey was straight up just like Metallica, Anthrax, and then like Prong, Megadeth. And I never got as far into what I think of as the Beyond Slayer metal, which is like the really like heavier death metal and really the stuff that you've been doing this whole time. What What do you think it is about metal specifically that creates such a community?
Because nobody else wants to listen to that crap, so you gotta find the people who will hang out with you, listening to like, here, check out this Finnish DB band. It goes doop doop. Check out this other one. It also goes doop doop, and like you got to find people who are willing to like do that for hours, you know. And but it is it's a it just becomes like a vibe. It's just like, I mean, a lot of musical communities will, you know, kind of do that. I mean, you get country western and people are, you know, they have their own signifiers. You got a giant belt buckle, stupid boots, and a dumb hat, and like, you know, who's listening to country music when you walk into the Flying J and who's listening to heavy metal. So it's, people do like tribe up around music. Metal has a certain interesting aspect of community. A lot of disassociation. The punk metal, I should say, has a lot of disassociation from, like, you know, norms of society. It's like, you know, all the boys are growing like longer hair than the girls in the community, and like, you know, so, and the girls are getting cool mohawks and cutting their hair. So it's just trying to get away from norms, and there's also, you know, some angst and anger that's obviously associated with that, that kind of draws people together. And it's nice to find those people, because you can, even with all your angst and anger, once you find that community, you can release it in a group setting. So I don't know, getting in the mosh pit is kind of like getting in a sweat lodge.
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely. Well, also there is, within that sense of community, there is the fact of like, oh, check out this new thing I found. Check out
Oh,
this
what
that's
is
connected to this other thing that I love.
and
That sharing and
and
discovery.
anybody not into metal who's, you know, watching this from like a toy community aspect, I think they can relate to that. No, check it out. I got the exclusive at Target. Check it
Yeah,
out. You got to see
right.
it.
Or even stuff like, hey, this guy that sculpted this toy line in the 80s, guess what? They're making this now. They're
Yeah,
doing this other toy
absolutely.
line that's similar to that, but now it's all their ideas. Like there's anytime there's creativity, once you get to the level of really talking to and looking at the creators, it's so interesting to see where things branch out.
Yeah, I mean, and it definitely, like, yeah, get into the create, which is now I'm actually meeting some of the creators being involved in Cold Slither, which is really cool and interesting. But I mean, even, yeah, I've got like my, you know, toy community friends like Dragon Fortress. I'm always like sending him like, check out this new O-ring Kickstarter. Check out this new O-ring Kickstarter. Like if you didn't see it yet, and we're always, you know, oh, I just got my newest order from Super Seven. He's like, is it swivel head or ball head? So there's like that community too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's this last weekend we had a convention in town called Jolanta, and we were able to do a panel.
Don't tell me about it. Don't tell me. I want to go. I've always wanted to go, and I've never been able to make. So, oh no, but please continue.
Well, I'll tell you this, because this will be available right here on the Needless Things YouTube channel. We did a panel with Michael Charles Hill, who wrote Cold Slither. He was there. He talked a little bit about the process and everything, and then introduced us, and we did a live table read of another script that he did right there at the convention. It was amazing, and he's just the nicest guy.
I got to meet him. He was. I may have cried a little bit, thanking him for childhood memories.
Right?
Gus Zartan may have also a little bit. So I hope he wasn't too overwhelmed. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I wrote a bunch of scripts and I thought this was the worst one, but they chose it. And we're like, oh, thank you. Like, just fanboying out on the poor guy.
Well, so many of those guys, I mean, at the time, it's just work for hire. So they don't, and then, 4 decades later, they discover, wait, this meant something to a whole generation of people. Wow, that's crazy. And I love that they're getting to enjoy that now.
Yeah, it's always nice to see that. I mean, it's like I kind of feel like, you know, we're the nerds and the dorks who enjoy like all the sci-fi and all that stuff. And you see like, you know, it's the old William Shatner bit where they're asking him questions from the show, and he goes, "It's a show." It's like, you know, he wanted to be doing Shakespeare in the theater. We're like, we'll always associate these people, you know, like the people from Farscape are always going to be the aliens from Farscape. And they're like, I'm an actor, but like,
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, you show them the love and you show them some respect when they come and do these cons, and hopefully they, you know, they get that, they at least can feel that love, you know.
And I get the sense that to a degree they can, especially talking about like Farscape actors or anybody who's done stuff under makeup or whatever, that they can sort of compartmentalize the different things that they've done. So like when you see Jeffrey Combs at a Star Trek convention, he knows like people are there for his Star Trek characters and he can lock in on that. But if you see him at a horror convention, they're there for Herbert West. Like
Right.
a lot of them really have learned to navigate through all of that. And it's interesting to see.
And it's up to us to show them the love for the work that
That's
they
right.
created, so they don't feel like they failed at doing a Broadway play. They
Yeah.
succeeded at making Reanimator one of the best movies ever made. So
Yeah, absolutely. So we won't talk about the first band, but you get to the point where you're doing with Exhumed.
yes,
How did
so
Exhumed come together, and what was the directive there?
well, there was it had been Cole and Matt. They started the band when they were like 15. So really, and it truly in a garage band. And they were just some dumb kids who didn't really know what they were doing. They got a little bit of attention, got a 7-inch out. There was the whole pay to play in the Bay Area, so they were already going. Um, and they were, playing shows. There were these kids showing up that couldn't drink at the show. They had to play and then get out of the club. And I joined around age 18, and the direction was just to be, a little bit edge lordy, gory, like be as gross and as sick as possible. And so that was what we did, and we had outlandish shows. And one of the things when I joined was I really liked Guar, and another band, local band Abscess, was kind of pushing the limits. So I was like, hey, why aren't we like throwing blood around on stage and getting a little crazier and up in the theatrics, and putting bones all over the floor and stuff like that. And we started like putting the metal spikes on like the guys in the 80s that we liked so much. And so we started like just kind of I brought in some more like that theater kid nerd BS
Yeah, yeah,
basically. And I was basically learning to play an instrument while being in the band, which is fine for grindcore. um so, and that's how we kept going. And then I got an offer to play in another band at the same time, and then I've Exhumed fizzled, so then I moved on. They didn't fizzle. We had an argument, and I got kicked out. But I was already in Impaled, and then I got kicked out of Exhumed, and then this other band, Ludacris, was like, "Hey, you've got a little more time. Why don't you come and play with us now?" And then we had other projects within Impaled, and so I just really, really never want to be bored is probably one of my biggest fears in life.
yeah.
So I always just say yes to everything, a lot of times to my detriment. And it's always one new project after another. But yeah, it was just always been like, I guess it went from, let's be as over the top and as crazy as we could be. And we're like, hey, maybe we should actually put out a good record with good songs on it. And so got a little more involved in the craft and the musicianship of it. And that's kind of where I'm at now. So still love the theatrics, still love going crazy with it. But also I want to make sure stuff sounds good. So
Well, and I love that progression because, starting with let's introduce some stage show and then getting to, well, you know what, let me actually focus a little bit on the craft of it. I I have a tendency to want everything to be the most it can be. Like
yeah,
if we're doing a game show, we're not just going to stand up there behind a podium and ask trivia questions. Like we're going to have props, we're going to have music, we're going to have lights. Like I want everything to be as theatrical as it can be because people are there giving you their time.
yeah,
Like if somebody's
exactly.
going to a show, yeah, sure, any band can go up there and play their set, and cool, that was awesome. But if you're throwing severed heads at them or spraying blood out at the audience, like that's something people are going to remember. They're going to talk about, and they're going to feel like, whoa, that was worth my time.
That was worth a $10 cover at the local
Yeah,
bar.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and for me, I mean, it's also just kind of fun. I like sculpting those severed heads and crafting that stuff. And I've always kind of like been responsible for doing the album cover artwork, because that goes back to like a band like Voivod, where I was like loved that the drummer was doing all the artwork for the band, and I was like, that's it. A band should just be pushing their artistic limits in every direction, or Guar for that matter, making their own videos and their own
Yeah,
movies. And that was the stuff that always inspired me. it's kind of like that, bringing that like a punk rock DIY ethic into like heavy metal and going that route.
The my buddy Matt, who I knew when I was a kid, and is the guy that got me into a lot of the early, certainly metal, but a lot of the early music I was listening to. I remember when he brought Phallus in Wonderland over to my house, and I mean, it's certainly a top 10, probably a top 5, like mind blowing, really understanding what creativity is
Yeah,
moment in my life.
that
That
movie
anybody
brought
who hasn't seen it, first of all, if you're sensitive at all, probably
trigger
don't
warning.
watch it.
Trigger
But
warning. Every second of that movie will trigger you.
yes, absolutely. But what an accomplishment, and what again, just an expression of every kind of creativity there can be.
I mean, it pretty much changed the trajectory of my life. So that was pretty much when I was like, oh, okay, I think I understand my purpose now is to like be like, I've got to aspire to this and this level of creativity and this like being this over the top and pushing the limits of art as much as I can.
Well, and just going for it and making it happen. Like
Yeah.
at no point did anybody involved with that say, "I don't know, I'm not sure we can do this." It was all just, no, fuck it, balls to the wall,
Yeah,
go.
and that's what you got to do. It's most of trying to make it out in music is it's more gumption than anything else. If you just keep like putting yourself out there with all full confidence, even if you're have basically can only play one note, like there's going to be someone who wants to listen to you. You just got to keep pushing it.
So getting into the grindcore and the really, again, what I think of as the like beyond Slayer metal, the vocals on that just seem like they'd be brutal. Like how this is such a basic question, but anybody who's listened to this stuff, how do you maintain that sound live? Like you're going out, you're touring, and every night, I feel like it would just be devastating.
It can be for some people. It's I mean, I'll say this: I've done like a 6-hour session of recording vocals that hurt, but generally, well, let's put it this way: I cannot do karaoke while I'm on tour. It's going to be terrible. My singing voice is shot, but it does. I've been doing this long enough. I probably damaged my vocal cords a long time ago. But it is like it's also just there is like some training in terms of there's techniques people do. Some people got to drink, hot tea with honey. For me, I prefer some fermented carbonated beverages. And so, but sorry,
I
it is
think
the morning for me.
that's the scientific term.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it is also just knowing where your range is. Something I learned early on, or actually took me too long to learn, was hey, I actually should be able to hear myself in the monitors, so I don't push myself too far. That's really probably the most important thing I learned. But otherwise, it's just a technique of just doing it. And I know my technique, but it's like I just can do that all day. I don't
Oh,
know.
it's wild.
Screaming, I think, is a bit harder. Luckily, that's not my role in the band. So,
So getting used to the tour, like at what point did touring become kind of a regular thing in your life?
early 2000s is when it started kind of becoming more regular. Exhumed, when I was in Exhumed, did little things in the 90s, but we couldn't break through to the big circuit in those days until they got our full album out, and then I was out of the picture. Then the band Impaled was we got an album out. We started doing some touring. Went out with Nile, Incantation, Monstrosity, over in Europe, and some other things. We never did do that much touring, but it did become like a regular thing to go like, okay, we're gonna go do like a weekend up in Portland and stuff like that. It was more about like when I started hanging out with the guys in Ghoul, and Guar took Ghoul out, and that's when kind of things just started exploding for every project I was in. And I rejoined Exhumed, and Exhumed has a pretty heavy touring schedule. So the 2010s is when I would say I actually really started touring instead of little trips here and there.
And how different is that life as far as just planning, taking care of yourself, staying able to keep going? I feel like it would be a shock the first time, like, you're spending a couple of months on the road. I feel like it would be really difficult to stay grounded.
It, I'm really glad I was not in. It's of course I would have loved to have been in a band that blew up when I was a kid, but that didn't happen. So I got to watch people make mistakes a lot more, and make my fair share. Definitely was voted the drunkest on the one European tour and smelliest. So, but luckily I learned from that and had to go back to do my day job and work through that and then go on the next tour and like learn some lessons. And now it's like, okay, shower as much as you can. Remember to do like a couple push-ups. Limit the drinking. Like have a time frame. Like do not start at noon just because you're at the club at noon. And try to just treat your body with yourself with some respect. And it's just I'm 50 now, so I want to keep doing this for a long time. I kind of figured out, and I was like, I got to actually make sure I'm okay to do this and take care of myself and eat decently on the road. Remember to bring my little pill box and take my, vitamins and stuff. It's a fun party to be had. You can have a party. It kind of is a party at the end of every night, as long as nobody got in a fight. But you need to get some sleep and wake up and do it again the next day. And you just got to like kind of have that. Probably thank my dad for that. He's a very routine oriented guy, and I think I picked some of that up.
Yeah. That's I'm 49 and I'm starting to be very conscious of making decisions about how I have fun rather than just having fun.
Yeah, and a couple years back, having like my first real bout with sciatica while going on tour in Australia and Japan, and dealing with that on a 17-hour flight, literally just wanting to die. And I'm like, I should do stretches every day. Like, you
Yeah.
learn these things. Let me impart that wisdom. Do some stretches every day. It's great.
It's difficult to start realizing like, oh, this thing doesn't do everything it used to
Yeah,
do.
it's got a shelf life.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. So any wild tour stories?
They mostly involved me not remembering where I was. There was a fun one. Let me. Okay, yeah, there was the guy. I kept talking about the Wodos patch. This is an insider metal thing. The band Sodom. Some guy was trying to sell Wodos. It's their logo upside down, their patch, and I convinced this guy to go get a tattoo of it. And literally, we played, and he had come back from the tattoo shop like that night in Salt Lake City and had gotten the tattoo in like after we'd been talking and showed it to me at the end of the night, and that was fun. It was fun to give to convince someone to get a terrible tattoo.
That's amazing. Well, and look, often people don't need that much convincing to get terrible tattoos. They go out and do
Oh
it
yeah,
themselves.
I've seen some terrible. The one guy in Oklahoma City who had the impaled tattoo that he had clearly done himself upside down, stick and poke, like where the logo went from big to really small, and he
Yeah.
was so proud of it. And I didn't want to tell him that it was the worst looking tattoo I'd ever seen in my entire life.
No, I mean, I think anybody who has any tattoos has had the experience of well, I have to pretend I appreciate this in some way or another because I
Oh,
don't
there
want
was.
to.
Oh, it's sorry, tour story. I just remember the time me and Sean from Impaled walked into this. It was somewhere in Portugal, in this little town. There was a fest. There was a little town. We walked in to this little town. It was really weird. It was kind of like something out of an H.P. Lovecraft story. And these guys like grabbed us. These older guys grabbed us and pulled us into this bar. And then they started yelling at me because I had a nose ring. Then they bought us food. It was so, it was like something like cast out of like an Argento movie, like giant lapel collars everywhere. Like it looked like we were in the 70s horror movie. And we were just like, what is going on? We were scared. And they're like, we have to leave. We have a show. They're like, we'll come with you. And so they follow us outside. The one guy doesn't speak any English. He's the one who was yelling at me about my nose ring. And then they walk back inside, and I look at Sean. I go, "Do we run?" He goes, "Yes." And we ran, and we got lost. This winding town somewhere in the middle some town in Portugal, and we could not find our way back, and we were running and out of breath, and then finally found the edge of town, ran back to the festival that we were playing, and we're like, let's never do that again. I think we almost got killed. Like,
That
that was
absolutely
strange. Yeah.
that sounds like the beginning of like a Lovecraft horror movie.
Yeah, I was certain we were going to see the gills on them at any second, you know?
Right? You ended up in the Dagon town.
Exactly. Yeah, that was wild.
So have you ended up at, kind of similar to that, have you ended up playing a place or a show or a festival or whatever where you get there and you're kind of like, you know what, I don't know if this is for us, or has it been fairly
Oh,
easy
that's
to
been
kind of
most of that's been a lot of festivals, showing up at a giant empty Walmart with 20 people paid to be at some festival. We're like, all right, well, we pay for this 20 people in this 40,000 square foot building.
oh my
Okay, that's what we do.
So let's get to a little toy talk before we get right into Cold Slither. What were your Joe years?
I would say, when did I start? Because I was like, as I was all Star Wars all day, all night. Saw the movie in the theaters when I was like 3 or 4 years old. Don't ever remember not being into it. Of course, Star Wars petered out, and then I was into He-Man. I had quite a good He-Man collection for a while. Transformers was big. I sold off all my He-Man to afford some of the bigger Transformers because those were expensive. And then had some friends who had, like, I was playing with the Dragonfly, and I was like, wait, this is the jam, like right here. These figures are cool. They got elbows.
Yeah.
Like, this is important. And so then it was like all G.I. Joe all the time. I was still there. My birthday party was going to the Transformers movie and watching Optimus Prime die. That was a fun time. It's like, wow, happy birthday. I'm crying. And then my mom gives me an Optimus Prime cake at the end of the day. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to eat the arc out of this guy, or the Matrix. And so that was fun. But but it was like G.I. Joe, and then that kept going. I'd say, up to the movie, I was collecting in '87. And then I started to like get more into comic books. And like, so some of the characters started looking goofier to me. I
Yeah.
had, I still loved, like, Crocmaster and the weird class of '87. I was definitely in on that. And it's just kind of like I got more towards reading and drawing and petered out around that phase. So, but I held on to all the stuff. Never blew my GI Joes up with firecrackers.
Ah,
That was so I had quite a mighty collection of, like, I didn't really get the '82 stuff, but I had a lot of good stuff from '83 up to like '87. I kind of went in some boxes, went on the shelves. Still would get toys in the '90s, like McFarlane came out around then, and that was like
yeah.
a lot of fun. That was like new, like, wow, toys for us sickos,
Well,
like
yeah, it
Texas
changed
Chainsaw
everything.
Massacre. Yeah,
All
it
the
definitely
like
changed the technology.
it changed the technology. It changed what was available where, because thinking about finding a giant action figure of Satan in Walmart was pretty wild.
Yeah, definitely.
And then
And all the horror movies and stuff like
yeah,
that. And
when you got into the movie Maniacs, I mean, all of the whatever horror stuff any collectors have on their shelves now, like, I think directly came out of that movie Maniacs line and how big that was.
yeah, absolutely. It was. I have some problems with Todd McFarlane in general because he's just a weirdo, um, but he really changed the game. And then, there was other guys like the Four Horsemen really brought sculpting
Oh
in,
yeah.
like, much bigger. So I was like into that stuff, and then Star Wars started coming back out, and I was very excited about that. So I pulled my Star Wars down and started getting like getting, wow, I've got Wooher now. I really need the bartender from the cantina, and I was excited about all those tiny get Lab Sivrak. I loved that stuff. I love those tiny those little things. And I'd see GI Joe there at the toy store, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. You can get like a 6-pack of soldiers now, but it didn't get my dollar then, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate because then I'm paying bigger prices for all that cool stuff that I didn't get. And meanwhile, the Star Wars stuff went back up in boxes because Star Wars fatigue started to set in as expectations were not met. Hey, if you love those movies, that's great. I'm not going to be one of those who like
Sure.
craps on everything. Just I realized sometimes IP can change and be meant for other people.
Yeah.
and that's okay. I will enjoy what I enjoyed about it, right?
But look,
So
that's the only way to look at it is like anything that's been around for a long time, Star Wars, Doctor Who, GI Joe, like any of that stuff that's been around for decades, it's either going to evolve to try and pull in a new audience, or its core audience is just going to keep shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until we're dead and it doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, I think it's a healthy thing to realize that you get older and that things can change. Um, I'm becoming largely irrelevant to advertisers,
Yeah.
except for maybe AARP. I keep getting letters from them. I'm like, hey, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'll totally get that discount at the movie theater when it's time, but we're not
Yeah.
there yet. And it's just like, but that's what happened. It was like, I went through all the different toy phases. Things went up. My parents, luckily, my dad had a bunch of EC comics thrown away when he was a kid, so he was cool with me hanging on to everything. He's like, don't let what happened to me happen to you. Um, so they let me box everything up, and then eventually they're like, all right, get your crap out. You've been living out on your own for decades now. Like, we need your stuff out of the attic. And I was pulling stuff down, and I was like going through all this Star Wars and Transformers and GI Joe, and being like, okay, what do I really love? Marie Kondo, what brings you joy?
Hmm.
And so we whittled some stuff down, and I realized I'm like, I don't think I can whittle down any of the GI Joe stuff. This stuff is just too fun. And I was going on tour more, and I think there was a show we played at Joe Grotto's in Phoenix, Arizona. It was right next to a toy shop. And I was like, I'll go pick up some more toys. And then I was like, wait, I could do this in every city that I go to. So that's when I started going a little bonkers again, um, like around 2015, and I was like, wow, I could pick up like the original Joe 13 that I didn't have as a kid, like I had a couple of them, but I didn't have Short Fuse, I didn't have
Yeah.
Hawk and the MMS, um, and so I started getting that stuff and picking that up, and then of course the pandemic hit, and then I don't know. Then everybody has the same kind of collecting thing going on. Then we were all on eBay getting government checks.
Yeah.
Like,
Right, right. Well, and that's being able to travel, and because that way you really get an idea of the pricing as well. I think having the opportunity to be in different places, because there are a couple of wrestlers that do a podcast about wrestling figures, but just the idea of like, yeah, of course, wrestlers have the opportunity to go to every toy store in the country and
yeah,
check out what everybody has, see what's available in different places, look at, have a better idea of in-person pricing as opposed to eBay pricing, which are two very different things.
yeah. I mean, and it's also fun. Like I'm a pretty amiable guy, so like I like talking to the store owners, and
Yeah.
sometimes you find out like they're into in Indianapolis, there's the Toy Pit. Like those guys are also selling like metal records out of there. So
Yeah.
we had a big long chat about heavy metal, and there's toy stores also phenomenal. It's huge and great. Um, and so you get to meet these people, and I just realized, well, this is like I've already seen all the landmarks I can see. I've seen the center of the universe in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's not that great. It's it's a circle you clap in. Like, who cares anymore? So I get to go meet some like different people outside of like the metal community, and talk to shop owners, and also just look at weird toys that I'm not collecting, but just see stuff. I'm like, wow, I never got to see the entire like gem doll collection all in one place. Or there was like Robotech dolls, like 12-inch dolls I'd forgotten it had even ever been produced. And so it's fun to do that. It's like a tiny little museum in every town I can get to.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love the most is finding something that I'd completely forgotten about, like that line from 1985 that had like six figures and that was it, and you're like, oh
Right.
man, that thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that it's a lot of fun. And so yeah, so then my toy collecting just started just coming back. Well, I'd say I've been toy collecting the whole time and buying random things here and there. But yeah, definitely the focus ended up on GI Joe with little things here. I mean, I couldn't not get HasLab Galactus. That would be
Right.
insane. He can also menace my GI Joes. Like,
Yeah, yeah, right. So speaking of Hasbro, it's now time we got to talk Cold Slither. I mentioned before that what an incredible opportunity, what an incredible moment in pop culture to be involved with. At the end of the day, it's corporate synergy, but it's something that I feel was done with such care and attention to detail, and I think just surpassed my expectations so much. Because when you hear, oh, Hasbro's doing something special to celebrate Cold Slither, you think, okay, cool, we'll probably get a song. We'll probably get an AI generated song and a poster, and like, they'll repaint some figures. But what they've done is this incredible media push that's gotten a lot of attention. And the fact that they involved actual musicians to produce a full album that, well, first let's talk about how you got involved with it. How did they bring everybody together for this thing?
Well, it was kind of like just the perfect is kismet. It was just I think that was basically two separate groups were kind of noodling around with ideas. Hasbro was going to be doing something with Cold Slither with the toy. Reigning Phoenix Music, Gerardo, they've all been at San Diego Comic-Con for years, so he's also interested in toys and stuff like that, along with running this worldwide record label that puts out Kerry King and stuff like that. He's also like a GI Joe collector and fan. Like he has some he's got toys. He's got the Roddy Piper GI Joe. I'm very jealous of that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so he had been like kind of formulating this idea of getting a band together to be Cold Slither. Like sideline, his friend Gus, we were on the phone a lot during the pandemic, just as especially as GI Joe was kind of getting relaunched, and we were both very excited about it. We were like, wow, okay, like I'm gonna go put on my mask and go hunt down the retro Snake Eyes at like Walmart or whatever, and so we were talking a lot, and he's like, we should just do Cold Slither. We should just we're both like Joe Bros, man. Like, let's do that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, whatever. And I was doing some fun. I was doing He Manowar on my side, just doing karaoke songs about He Man over Manowar songs, putting them on YouTube. So I was like, yeah, we could do this fun little project together someday. And then meanwhile, Gerardo, this was about 4 years later, is friends with Gus, knows he wants to do this. Is like, guess what? I got the deal. We can do this. We can do this officially with Hasbro.
Wow.
So Gerardo brings Gus in. He's like, do it. Write songs. Let's start. And then it was a whole submission process. So, and Hasbro was like, sure. We're going to put out some toys, and we don't have to do anything to make this music. You guys will just make this music and put out a record. Great. That's awesome. Do the work for that. And so
but even
became
then,
a very good work. It was a good working relationship they had. And there was, Gus had to submit song titles. Hasbro gave some song titles back. They're like, we'd really like this song. He's like, okay, cool. I can write that. And came together. I come in when Gus is in the demo stages and says, guess what? You're a Dreadnought now. I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, it's happening. I was like, okay, we'll do Cold Slithers. Like, no, it's actually happening. This is a record label. It's a record deal. It's through Hasbro. I was like, my mind's blown.
Doing anything when a big corporate entity like Hasbro is involved can be so tricky, and the oversight on it can be so limiting. But this album really feels like these are, you guys obviously appreciate, your Joe. It was done with, okay, what if Cold Slither had put an album out, or really, what if Cold Slither put an album out now?
Yeah.
And the fact that Hasbro let it have the sound that it has and the feel that it has is really surprising.
I mean, because I think, yeah, you would expect, corporate oversight. One, I think it was for Hasbro, this billion-dollar corporation that puts out World of Warcraft, or not World of, they put out what is it, Magic the Gathering,
Wizards of the Coast,
Wizards of the Coast,
yeah,
all that. So GI Joe's like this, so and Cold Slither's like this,
yeah.
But the GI Joe team is heavily invested and really wants to put out the coolest product. I've talked to those guys, and I was kind of quizzing them on some of the stuff. I was testing them out, and I'm like, okay, you pass. And they were awesome, and they Gus, I think, just kind of keyed into exactly, we didn't want to go too heavy metal, too much Dawkins, because Dawkins great, but that's not really going to translate to actually sell to an audience now. So he really did key on the idea, what if this band came out of retirement and wanted to make something heavy that was marketable, right? So he had the correct mindset to put the songs together. He's like, it's still going to be heavy, it's still loud, but it's going to be influenced by what has already passed from the 80s to now, and be like, what would this heavy metal band do now?
Well, and I think that's what's magic about the album is if it had been a whole album that sounded like the original song from the cartoon, it would have been a gimmick. But this is an actual, real, legit album that you want to like. I've got the.
Yeah,
You want to put on the record player.
it's
You want
got
to have in
hooks.
the
It's got
car.
fun choruses. It's got metal in it.
Yeah.
Because it comes from people who grew up listening to metal. So it's not the it's definitely not AI generated, which was it was funny to see those accusations at first, and it was like, no, it's like Gus is like really can write a good basically all rock and roll is pop, and you just verse chorus bridge verse chorus. You want to keep things catchy, but then you bring in the metal trappings, you make it heavy, you make it evil, you go to a minor chord, stuff like that, and he was the right guy to tap to make an album that like that. It's like reminds me a lot of like Kiss Revenge when they were like, hey, we forgot everyone's heavy now, we better be heavy again, and
Yeah.
they put out
Yeah.
sick record.
And I think the way that Cold Slither, the first single was released, and looking back, I appreciate the rollout now of like, here's just this, think about it, talk about it. And I think without knowing who are the artists who did this, what is this coming from Hasbro? What is like, it was just kind of we don't know who made this. We don't know where this is coming from. We don't know the intent. We don't know the context, because that was the big thing that won me over was I think Thunder Machine might have been the next thing that came out. Like the rollout of the songs is how you understood the context of the whole album. That it was never meant to be, this is the Cold Slither album that came out in 1985. That it's now, and then you start to put it together like, well, wait, now I want to know who's making this, who is making this, who's responsible. And then they kind of, I feel like it took a minute after the first single for the Reigning Phoenix to like, oh, well, wait a minute, there's a record label involved. Oh, wait a minute, here are the people involved. Like there was a strategic rollout that looking back, I feel was meant to generate the most buzz possible. And I feel like that early, is this AI? Like, I don't know that that was intentional, but I do feel like once whoever was promoting this saw it, they kind of played into it a little bit.
Yeah, we thought it was funny. I mean, yeah, there was definitely a calculated rollout. And I mean, Gerardo, he knows what he's doing. Hasbro knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So I just listened to what they said. If it had been up to me, I would have never revealed that I was in the band. Like I would have just wanted to get on stage as Torch, and it would have been like, no, Torch is real now. Like that's actually so I don't know what I'm talking about with Mark. And they're like, we're gonna reveal the members of the band. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, like I'm just some schmuck. Who cares about me? But I think that was the right move, because it was like, oh, these are metal guys who like metal. And I've been running like, then in the toy community, like my friends that I, in that section where I'm, just putting up my toy photos and stuff like that. They're like, wait, we know you play music, but you got to, whoa, cool. Like, so there was that kind of response too. So that, I guess that was the right move to do. But I do think it was kind of fun keeping it a secret I had to keep a secret for like months. I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell my parents.
That's
kept
fun
that
though.
Stuff NDA lockdown. I think the only one was Hot Rod from Cybertronic Spree. He texted me, and because we met some years ago, and he texted me. He goes, "There's this GI Joe band coming out. If you're not involved in this, that's BS." And I was like. My no response was all the response.
Right.
He's like, wait a second, you are.
Like, you're like, there's nothing I can say to this right now.
He guessed early on, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I didn't say yes or no, but I guess you got your answer. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, they Hasbro, like they did a really good job rolling it out. I mean, we still got stuff. The comic book is out now. So
yeah.
Hey, great time for Cold Slither. I was like looking at the release schedule. I was like, all right, could this be more than a one-off? I'm like, well, the comic book's not out till October. around New York Comic Con. All right, if we don't screw up San Diego, if we can, each of us really does a careful job of not cursing on stage and playing
Right,
the
right.
songs correctly, I was like, we're gonna go to New York Comic Con. Like it's gonna happen. So, and here we are coming up to New York Comic Con. So,
And that's was October 11th
yep, at
at
the Gramercy Theater.
yeah, Gramercy. Concurrent with New York Comic Con, not so far away from the Javits Center. And I got to say, though, with the synergy of this, the comic book, the album, Hasbro's push, I mean, this is basically an action figure of you.
Well,
I mean, it
he's a lot.
really
He's
is.
a lot more rocked out than I am. So,
so at what point did you know all along that you would end up being in costume on stage, or did that kind of develop?
oh, that was I wouldn't have done it if we weren't going to do it in costume.
Okay.
I would not know that it was planned. Like from the beginning, we were like, I think Gus was really excited to dress up as Zartan. He
Yeah.
really wanted to be the master of disguise and play that character. And I was like all into the costuming. I had to sew a shirt for Torch because there's no such thing as a shirt with a giant red arrow on it.
Right.
It helped out, like, helped some of the other guys find their pieces. I was like, get your own shoes, but like I had to help Ripper, get the leather vest. I had to go to the shop and find the right one for him and find these goofy like bro glasses that the Dreadnoks all wear and find all that stuff. And Buzzer's pearl necklace. Had to make sure he had that pearl necklace, especially after, they made big hay about it on the toy reveal.
Yeah.
The only thing was that at first, when we watched the cartoon, so that's all we had to go on. We hadn't seen the toys, so we finally. So I was like, I'm Ripper because he's the only one playing that plays a 4-string, and then the toys come out or they do the big reveal, and so we had to like fix some of our costumes, but then also they were like, Ripper's the lead guitar player, and I'm like, I am no lead guitar player. Like that's so like, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if they're going to like fire me. Like, what? And I just call up Augusta and Matt. I was like, can I be Torch instead? And they're like, yeah, definitely. Like Matt's got to be Ripper. He's the lead guitar player. So we had to like switch some things up in the end there, but it worked out well because this is usually how I wear my facial hair, just like Torch.
Well, and if you notice, even on the artwork on the back, you've got the guitar, but that keytar is slung over the back. So
yes. There's two. There's one with a keytar and one with a guitar. There's the convention exclusive, and Gerardo was really smart because he knew where the band was and what perform. Hasbro was just making their toys. They're going to make the best toys they can based on their property. Gerardo was like, okay, we know Ross is playing bass, so we're going to make sure that we get a picture of Torch playing bass.
Yeah.
Because ain't no way we're going to get up there and I'm going to be playing keytar through the whole damn set, right? That is not the heavy metal band that just put out a record now in today's day and age.
Right.
But the key, I do have a keytar now. It does make an appearance. It's just not going to be played the whole time because it just won't. Nobody actually wants that.
No. So San Diego Comic-Con happened. New York Comic-Con is coming up. Any other plans, like a mini tour to hit a few cities?
There are no set plans other than dreams and aspirations at this point. I want to play Dragon Con. I want to play Jolanta. I want to play, I want to hit the convention circuit. It's fun to come into a place and get a hotel room and dress up like a goofy cartoon character and make people fantasy, their cartoons come to life in front of them on stage. This is so fun to me. Because that's what I would love to. It's like what I saw when I went and saw Cybertronic Spree for the first time, and I'm like, whoa, there's the Transformers up there playing, all the hits that everybody knows from Spectre General and NRG and like all these from this soundtrack I've been listening to since I was a kid. And I was like, wow, I'm so jealous of them. And now it's like I get to do something extremely similar to them, except for I don't have to wear as heavy a costume, so that's cool.
Well, and that's what's so mind blowing about it is like, you see them from afar, you see the gimmick at first, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. That'll be fun to see. But then you get there, and they're also actually a great band. Like that's like, oh, they don't even need the gimmicks. Like, this is just awesome.
I mean, and hopefully that's like, what people see when they see Cold Slither. We're going to be up there. We're going to be goofing around and doing antics and dressed like dreadnoughts in glam rock gear, but we're going to play, and
Yeah.
we're going to play well. And like everybody, like, I've been playing with Matt Ripper in Exhumed for decades now. And he's been playing with Gus in their band Gruesome for, and then Andy's does Cam FDM. I mean, we're all pros to one extent or another. Like, and so we're going to go up there and hopefully we're going to kill it for you.
Well, and that's what because anybody watching or listening, there are video clips all over YouTube. You can see you guys playing, and anybody who hasn't, check it out, because it's something that I thought I was going to be able to make it to New York, not happening, which is why I'm asking about, other opportunities to see Cold Slither live.
Like, let people, buy the record and let people know you want to see us at the convention. It's going to be a lot fan driven. If people want to see it at their local convention or whatever, and then we'll try to make it happen.
And that's the key is any convention that you go to across, wherever, let the people who book things, let the people who run the convention know you want to see this band or whatever band it is. Like, you got to let them know, hey, I go to your convention and I want to see this, because they don't tend to find this stuff on their own. You got to let them know.
I mean, and Zartan, he wants to take over the world, so he's hoping, he wants tours. He wants to go to every town. We'll see. Like, yeah, it would be great. I mean, all of us have loved heavy metal, and we're all like dorks who collect toys. Everybody in the band. Matt only likes superhero toys, but we don't have to talk about that. So.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. There's plenty of room for everybody at the toy convention.
Yes, there is. Yes, we can all have fun together.
So I know we got to wrap things up here. Before we go, where can we find you online? What else are you up to?
I'm always up to something. I got shows coming up with Exhumed, so you can check out Exhumed online. You should check out this band called Ghoul that I may or may not be involved in. If you like costumed bands with crazy antics on stage, similar to Guar, you should check out Ghoul online. You can find me on any social media thing as myself under Sewage 666. That's try to keep the same handle, keep it easy. If you want to see my toys, I've been doing a toy. I had decided I had to separate it out, like metal fans. I needed to, talk about shows and not toys all the time. So I got a toy account. That's Doc Sewage, DOKSEWAGE. So that's just where I take photos of toys and throw them in the dirt and do all that kind of fun stuff with them.
Awesome. Well, man. Oh, go ahead.
That's it. That's my plugs.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It was great talking to you. I've got a list of bands I need to check out now as well. And I'll just say this, anybody listening or watching, the mention of Ghoul, I would love to dig into that more, but I'll just say Shred the Dead, check that video out. I dig that so much, and my interest is piqued.
Heck yeah, that's all I want to do is keep making music and having fun. So thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Cobra. I'm gonna get fired.
Smash that like button if you like Needless Things.